of four main factors: a violent and protracted conflict, economic devastation, social services on the brink of collapse, that's health, nutrition, water, sanitation, education, protection, and a critical...
Let's speak to James Elder now about this. He's the spokesperson for Unicef, joining me from Geneva. James, thank you for coming onto the program. Now, we heard from you in that story from our reporter, and you speak about these four factors at play in Yemen that are contributing to the humanitarian crisis. Just talk us through them in more detail.
Well, in kind of reverse order, the funding crisis is a little bit unlike what we've seen. There's normally some emergency way we can pivot and find life-saving funds. Right now, because of other crises in the world, because of COVID in rich countries, because this conflict's gone so long, we have a critical situation where an organisation like Unicef literally may not be able to support, say, the 4,000 health centres that we do for severe acute malnutrition. That's one example. There are many others. Then, of course, you have an economic collapse based on inflation, fuel costs, meaning it's so difficult for people just to get by. By one simple example, it's about 170,000 teachers who haven't been paid for a couple of years. They keep turning up, mind you. It's important that the world remembers just how much Yemenis are doing, but the currency they have is not worth what it used to be. Then we have all those social services that simply have either been directly hit by the conflict or, again, are suffering because of a lack of investment. That's your education, your health, your nutrition. And on top of that, this umbrella, we have a 6-7 year conflict. It's a perfect storm. And as your reporter rightly said, it's children, yet again, bearing the brunt of this.
And of course, those children, as you mentioned, so many Yemenis are also very resilient. But how can they really continue like this when their next generation is not even going to school? They're not getting an education to actually help their future or the future of their country.
Well, that's right. I mean, again, the numbers can be quite staggering, but each time we do break it back to those people behind them. I mean, when I was there last week, and many women I met doing incredible things. And for example, one pediatrician, she'd studied for 8 years. She had a master's degree. She'd been practicing for 10 years, saving lives. The day I met her, she literally brought a child back from the brink of death who was severely malnourished with UNICEF supplies. And this child was now on a path to recovery. This paediatrician had not been paid once in 2021. That requires support from countries in the region, from Western countries, anyone to support people like that. She, of course, is a product of going to school and being educated. And as you rightly say, now that so many children aren't in school, or they're in classrooms of 150 because many schools have been damaged or are occupied in this conflict, then we risk another generation, and Yemen cannot afford that. So all these things have a domino effect, a snowballing effect. And right now, the only two things that will stop this slide into hell are, one, those countries who are in conflict or who have influence over them getting together and negotiating. And whilst we wait for that, supporting organisations like UNICEF, like you see there, Save the Children, like World Food Programming, supporting them so they can keep kids alive.
Keeping kids alive. Wow. James Elder, thank you so much for your time and your analysis, speaking to us from Geneva.